Welcome to Idaho Fish and Game's Hook and Bulletin podcast, your weekly news roundup of hunting, fishing, trapping, and conservation stories from around the Gem State. Hosted by Fish and Game's Public Information Specialist, Connor J. Lease.
And welcome back to Idaho Fish and Game's Hook and Bulletin podcast. Hope you all had a fantastic Memorial Day weekend. Very, very slim episode this week. Not a whole lot to cover after we bombarded you with fishing stories last week. This is going to be the last you hear of me, though, at least for 2 weeks. Be heading up to Stanley to tie the knot, of all things. And no, I don't just mean tying number 20 zebra midges on the end of my tippet. It should be a heck of a week, though. If getting hitched is anything like fly fishing, I know there's going to be some moments that get above the waiter belt. So if any listeners have any hot tips, whether it's for fishing or matrimony, I'd love to hear them. This week we'll be talking about some mischievous moose down in Twin Falls, new summer hours out at Blacks Creek Shooting Range, and the new mountain goat management plan, which needs your input. But first, a couple of must-know updates for Chinook anglers. Last week, the Idaho Fish and Game Commission increased the daily and possession limits for Chinook in portions of the Clearwater River Basin due to a large percentage of the Clearwater return heading back to the Kooski Hatchery on Clear Creek. Those changes took effect immediately. For Chinook fisheries on the main stem Clearwater River upstream of Orofino Bridge, Middle Fork Clearwater, and South Fork Clearwater Rivers, the daily bag limit is 4 Chinook, only 2 may be adults. And the possession limit is now 12 Chinook and only 6 may be adults. But that's not the only change coming to Chinook fishing. Harvesting adult Chinook salmon on a portion of the lower Salmon River closed on May 27th. This closure is for the portion of the lower Salmon River from the Rice Creek Bridge upstream to Upper Twin Bridge, river location number 10. This section of river will remain open to fishing for Chinook salmon Thursday through Sunday, but you'll only be allowed to harvest jacks. The sections of the lower Salmon River from Upper Twin Bridge to Shorts Creek remains open Thursday through Sunday with a daily bag limit of 4 salmon, only one of which can be an adult. Seasons can change quickly though, so be sure to check the most current reports and restrictions before you head out. Check out the Chinook Salmon Seasons and Rules page on our website to check the status of all Idaho Chinook salmon fisheries, link in the description. All right, here's a story from Kenzie Baratti coming out of the Magic Valley region. On Wednesday, May 21st, Magic Valley Region wildlife staff successfully darted and relocated 2 yearling bull moose from Idaho Power's Twin Falls Park to suitable moose habitat in the southern portion of the region. The moose were first reported on the evening of May 20th, but with park gates closed for the night, relocation efforts were postponed until daylight. While seeing moose can be an exciting and memorable experience, the presence of large wildlife in areas with high public activity raises safety concerns for both people and the animals. Each spring, Idaho Fish and Game receives reports of moose moving through neighborhoods, roadways, and nearby schools throughout the Magic Valley. These reports typically involve yearling moose that have been recently driven away from the cow moose as she prepares to give birth to this year's calf. The decision to use anesthetic drugs and relocate wildlife is not made lightly. Immobilization involves the use of potent drugs and carries inherent risks for both the animals and Fish and Game staff that are involved. However, when moose do not leave on their own, relocation becomes necessary. Moose are common species here in southern Idaho, and while they may appear slow and awkward, they are surprisingly fast and powerful animals. They can become aggressive if they feel threatened, particularly towards people and dogs. Idaho Fish and Game encourages residents and recreationists to keep the following safety tips in mind when leaving or spending time in moose habitat. Be sure to make noise if a moose is nearby to avoid surprising it. Keep dogs on a leash. Moose can view dogs as a threat, so never allow your dog to chase a moose. If you encounter a moose, observe behavior for signs of stress and agitation, such as pinned back ears, raising neck hair, snorting, grunting, or hoof stomping. If you notice these behaviors, put a barrier between yourself and the moose, such as a vehicle or a tree. Moose may be more likely to charge during certain times, including when a person or dog comes between a cow and her calf, or during the mating season when bull moose are more aggressive and unpredictable. For more information about moose and how to stay safe around wildlife, contact the Magic Valley Regional Office at 208-324-4359 or read Kenzie Baratti's full press release on our website. All right, folks, that's it for the major stories this week. I told you it's going to be a short one. Let's hit the rapid fire bulletin. Fish and Game is seeking public comment on its draft mountain goat management plan for 2025 to 2030. Hunters and other interested parties have until June 8th to comment on a draft Idaho mountain goat management plan. The plan will provide guidance for Fish and Game to implement management actions that will aid in the protection and management of mountain goat populations and guide harvest recommendations. A final draft of the plan will be presented to the Fish and Game Commission for their consideration at the July 16th and 17th meeting up in Coeur d'Alene. And speaking of commission meetings, if you missed last week's May 22nd meeting in Idaho Falls, there's a full recap which you can watch now on our YouTube page. There was a whole bunch of stuff covered, including the non-resident tag draw framework, the 2026 shooting range grant funding recommendations, and the draft mountain goat management plan. The video is on our YouTube channel with timestamps for every agenda item, so you can skip ahead to whatever you want to know about. Just hit the link below. Beginning Sunday, June 1st, Blacks Creek Shooting Range summer hours will be 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Thursday through Sunday. The 500-meter range will be open Fridays and Sundays from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Shooters will not be able to check in after 5 p.m. Patrons will need to check in at the training center instead of the range office. The range office is just simply too small to accommodate the record number of shooters that we get at BCR every year. And while we regret the inconvenience it can cause some, this process should reduce wait times and long lines at the range office. Signs and cones will be out to direct traffic flow, so please pay attention and folks, please be patient. Hit the link in the description if you want to learn more. Alrighty, boys and girls, that's it for this week's stories. It's time for our question of the week. This week's question was submitted by Andrew P. Andrew asks, is it okay to catch and sell tadpoles? No. So Idaho native tadpoles are amphibians and classified as protected non-game, and as such, it would not be legal to sell them without a permit. A person with a valid Idaho hunting license is allowed to collect and keep up to 4 of any species of Idaho native reptiles and amphibians, including turtles, snakes, and tadpoles, except for bullfrogs, which are non-native and classified as game fish, in which case the person would need a fishing license. Bullfrogs may not be transported alive. Once wildlife is taken into captivity, it cannot be returned to the wild or the backyard pond, even after the tadpole turns into a frog, toad, or a prince. The rules are meant to protect native species and to prevent the spread of invasive species such as bullfrogs. Hope this helps, Andrew. All right, folks, that's all the news we have for this week. Thanks for putting an ear to Idaho Fish and Game's Hook and Bulletin. Like I said, I'll be out of the office the next 2 weeks, but we have a really special interview episode planned for next week. If you guys like conservation officer stories, then we got a really cool one for you coming out of the Magic Valley region, I believe next Friday. So stay tuned on that. In the meantime, if there's something on your mind, or if you got a question related to Fish and Game Matters, feel free to drop us a line at podcast@idfg.idaho.gov. Again, that's podcast@idfg.idaho.gov. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll catch you next week.